Date live from Massachusetts.
Sure. So he is lucid enough to talk, and he was lucid enough to get his Miranda rights read to him. Also, thoughts that he shot himself through the neck. That was kind of, that's been really brought into question now. As an eyewitness there that helped take down said it looked more like just a cut, or maybe something exploded, some of the shrapnel cuts that those at the Marathon Bomber, when they actually bombed, those who were at the finish line, suffered. But meanwhile, they read him his Miranda rights, and prior to that or after that, he said, I'm motivated by religion, that religion being Islamic extremism or Islam. And he goes on to say, but I have no outside ties. I'm not part of a larger group. Isn't that convenient? Well, I guess that's good enough.
That's key. Now, both the brothers apparently went to a mosque in Cambridge. However, it was the older brother. Clearly, the younger brother was following the older brother through life in so many different ways. And we told you a little bit yesterday about some of the outbursts that the older brother had at the mosque in Cambridge. For instance, back in November, where they were talking about it was okay for Muslims to celebrate American holidays like Thanksgiving and the 4th of July. And Tamerlane, the older brother, stood up and argued. And then in January, where one of the sermons was praising Martin Luther King Jr., he got up and he called the guy a hypocrite. And essentially, he was hooted out of the congregation and had to leave.
I think the headline, though, in Molly Lyons' report is that ostensibly this younger guy didn't know anything about the bombings terrorist until a week before. You know, if that's true, that really lends to what we're discussing here this morning, that he was just an underling, supposedly, being linked by his brother.
Following his brother.
And it brings out a really important part of the story, I think, which is that the parents were absent. The parents had gone back to Russia, and this 19-year-old kid was able to be probably swayed by the older brother. It appears that he was the one that had radicalized himself. I'm not giving him, I'm not saying he's not to blame at all. I'm just saying that that's probably
positioning him to get less than a death sentence.
Well,
there's no way you should believe this. Everyone's apparently just running with this story. You got to be kidding me.
Well,
you question him for 90 seconds as he's come out of a harrowing situation like this. He's in self-preservation. This guy needed to be questioned for a couple of weeks. They need to see if his story lines up. They all have the same explanation to get out of it in the beginning, and then you got to drill down on it with professional interrogators. He did not need to see his Miranda rights read to him in bed. It's laughable.
It does sound as if, from everything I've read this morning, apparently it was the mother, their mother, who actually pushed them toward Islam, a very extreme form of Islam. You got to wonder whether or not, though, the widow of the older brother, who is now with her parents, knew anything. There she is right there.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
Catherine Russell Tsarnaev. She reportedly didn't suspect her husband of anything, didn't have any reason to suspect him. Why? Because she was apparently working 70 to 80 hours a week as a home health care aide. And while she was away, he was supposedly taking care of the 3-year-old toddler.
Also, she had totally changed who she was. And many people allege she'd been brainwashed by this radical Islam thought. You know, that she was a Christian before, and 3 years ago she decided to convert, but not only just convert, really get into the depths of it and change exactly who she was. You saw her there in the garb. People who knew her growing up in high school said she was nothing like she was ever before. She dropped out of college. She was inspired to become somebody and instead, you know, decided to, I guess, just be under his guidance. But it's interesting now to know exactly what she knew, especially when he is now potentially involved in a triple murder that happened in 2011. Authorities now looking into any connections that he may have had with them.
Well, the 3 guys he knew, one of which was supposedly his best friend, and they were brutally murdered. Pot was sprinkled on their body. But there's no way logically that you would have to, how do you not know that the man you converted to Islam for is not involved in some extracurricular activities? You've already switched to his religion. Why is that? You don't think it ever came up that, by the way, honey, I'm taking it to another level, start killing the American people, and I'm going to need to go to Russia, some of those outlying provinces, the Caucasus for just a little while. If anything comes up, watch the kid and work 70 hours.
Yeah, anytime you take off for 6
months. And by the way, I'm
months,
not talking to cops about it.
When you're in Russia, you think the wife would have suspected either that or, honey, why do we have a dozen pressure cookers over the closet?
Yeah, I love the Food Network, and they seem to have really captured my fancy.
Anyway, one of the older brother's best friends was killed in a grisly murder, a triple murder, 3 guys. He was friends with one of them particularly, and now some are suggesting that we thought about him. Well, now the DA up there in Middlesex County is considering him a lead in their murder.